Hello and welcome to Drilling Insight. I'm Jeremy Verduzco, host and editor of the Driller magazine. I'm joined today by drilling trainer, the Driller writer, and co-host Brock Yorty. How's it going, Brock?
I'm doing great. Yorty is tough to say sometimes in 2021.
Sometimes I just need to slow down and, let
Don't we
every
all?
word breathe a little bit. So on today's show, we welcome Jim Smith. Thanks for being on the show, Jim.
No problem. Glad to do it.
So now Jim is a professor in the resource drilling technician program at Fleming College in Lindsay, Ontario. He specializes in training up and coming drillers. And so we thought we'd bring him on to hear about the school and current trends and challenges in trades education. So first off, Jim, let's start with our usual opening question. Did you choose this industry or did the industry choose you?
Well, I chose the industry, but there was definitely a draw to it, and I don't know where that draw came from. Well, I do know. Years ago up here, they used to have a program on some local TV, and Fleming College had little video bits of different programs. And I remember being 12 years old, seeing one of those video bits actually on the resources drilling program, and thought, you know what? That's pretty cool. I was a gearhead. I liked everything engine, motors, equipment wise. And that stuck with me from the age of 12 until, you're into high school and you're deciding what program do I want to take? Where do I want to go to school? And I loved the country. I loved being out in the outskirts, and I wanted to be a well driller. So I found the program in some literature and applied, got in. Excelled in college. So I think it's a little bit of both. I chose it. I had a passion for it. But as far as a family or roots in the drilling world, no. I was from about an hour outside of Toronto, and but I spent a lot of time at the country and my grandmother's and saw drills, but was drawn to this specific industry through events. And it's been great ever since. It's been a wild ride. So
That's fantastic. When I was 12, I watched Baywatch, so I thought I should be a lifeguard, but I wasn't the shape proper. So you spent more than a decade as a driller. How did you decide to become a teacher?
Well, that kind of fell into my lap. I'd always maintained good relationship with the professors here at the college. I was a student here right out of high school, and excelled, just loved it, and really had great relationships with Gord Bailey and a few of my other instructors. And I would be drilling in the area, and they would stop in and see me regularly. So they'd come out to the drill and see how I'm doing. And a couple times I came into the college as they were teaching and spent a few minutes talking to the students, and from that point forward, they thought, this person can speak, he can speak eloquently, knows the business because he's doing it every day. Initially I started teaching adults. So I am young in the industry, and I am thrown in with 40-year veterans teaching CEC courses. So in order for a lot of those technicians to get licensed in Ontario after Regulation 903 came in, there was an educational component that was never there before. So now we have veteran drillers, in some cases, and helpers getting licensed or new license classes. They are going to classrooms that they haven't seen in 30 years. And so I really cut my teeth, I think, teaching in one of the most difficult environments. And yeah, you can imagine high school is one thing where students don't know anything, but now you're facilitating the learning of adults. And so for some strange reason, I thrived at it. I was able to pick their brains, but yet teach them something. It was interesting. I remember this one time, and I'll just give you one example. I was teaching about logging geology and how, regulation, demands that we must log geological changes. We must take samples every 5 feet, and we must write it down on our drill log and thus onto our well records. And this old guy at the back says, nope, you're wrong, Jim. You're not supposed to do that. I'm like, what? And so at this point, I'm curious. Like, what is this all about? So he goes, nope. My boss says you don't want to reveal the secrets. And it just led to a great conversation, and I got my point across on how valuable these resources are, and especially now we have online resources for all water wells in Ontario. We can look them up and instantly see information. So I said, see how valuable that you're using that? Wouldn't you love a previous driller to have been accurate in completing the data? So yeah, I cut my teeth there, and it snowballed. I would teach one course, and every time they asked me, can you teach this? Yep. When, rig maintenance to water well to geotech, horizontal directional drilling, what I've done before as well in the industry. So, and then eventually about, it's probably close to 10 years ago now, not quite. I got full-time here as a full-time professor. And so I was able to leave my 40-hour drilling week or 50-hour drilling week and come here full-time. And now, after 8 or 9 years, I'm like, you know what? So I get 2 months off in the summer, July and August, right? And so actually the last few years I've been going back drilling. I have a good friend that runs a contract business. So I still cut my teeth. So I'm out on a drill in the summer, enjoying myself. So I said, well, I can only sit around so long, and July and August is beautiful up here in Ontario. So let's get back out on a drill, and it's good. I get to show some of the young guys some of the tricks, that I've learned over the years, and it gives you some credibility, right? You walk into work and say, I was last week, I was doing this with a well or this with a sampling system. My boots are dirty still. And so it does give you some of that credibility that's required, especially to teach adults, but even our post-secondary students who just come out of high school. They want to see that. They want to see that you know what you're talking about through boots on the ground. So, yeah.
That is incredibly important. Keeping the boots dirty, that's a brilliant, insight that I think all of us teachers and coaches and whatnot need to remember. As a student at Fleming, I've worked with Gord Bailey and you at the Jeffco school. I've worked with Duckworth, the Bayreuth rep that had popped in and out of your school. How was your teaching style? Was it similar to those, or did you start developing your own? How did you find your way?
That's a great question. I think I've taken bits from all my mentors, I would call them. Even you, Brock, I've listened to you and watched your podcast. I think a good instructor is willing to learn and willing to see what other people are doing and successful at, and taking little bets. My style isn't a Gord Bailey style, or in this case, we have other instructors, Steve Wilkinson and Mark Duckworth. My style is Jim Smith style, but I've taken bits and pieces of each. I can be a hard ass in some cases, very much so, but yet there's times when we've had tragedies in socially in the program that I've had to be, I've number of times I've had students crying at my desk, and things in life happen, and I have to be sensitive and caring, but yet on the flip side, I got to show them, like, this is what the industry's like, and this is what you need to be prepared for. So sometimes it's get out of class. You don't have the proper safety gear. See that door, have a nice day. And it sounds rough and tough, but that's what our industry demands. I have a safety meeting at 8:00 on a lab, and it's after the bar night on Thursday, and you walk in 8:05, get out. Yeah. Welcome to the industry that you're going to see in 2 years.
Yeah.
So I got to get them to that point, but yet there's also that time that life happens, and I need to be a support for these students. I got a lot of international students. They are a long way from home, and they need to be able to see me too as someone they can trust, they can come to. I can be difficult and not difficult, but I say, firm. Yeah. But I also need to be a caring figure that they can go to with their issues and say, okay, let's work our way through that, So, yeah, so that's my style.
Yeah. So Jim, I have a question about equipment, but first I'm realizing that we kind of skipped over the pitch. So if I'm a young person, what's like what does Fleming College's resources program have for me? Why should I come there versus other trade schools that I might be interested in? What does Fleming have that distinguishes it?
Well, I think one thing that really makes us shine is the jobs. I mean, to be blunt about it, we have a lot of employers looking for our students. At our job fairs, I would say of this whole campus, we're at the Frost campus of Fleming College, the School of Natural Resources Sciences. You know, at a job fair for the whole school, like at least a third, if not half of all companies are drilling companies looking for our 50, 60, 70, 80 students, everywhere from foundation construction, exploration, horizontal directional drilling. So there is a lot of work. It's nothing for our students that are graduating, especially, you know, really good students with 3 and 4 job offers and good jobs. We're not talking just, mediocre pay. We got some good union work downtown, working foundation construction drilling to exploration drilling. And 2, why choose Fleming program? Well, we have state-of-the-art equipment. We stay current with that. There's been a great influx from the college in the last 5 years of equipment. We just got a brand new diamond exploration drill. 3 years ago, we got our brand new Casa Grande C6 XP2, a mobile B37, 2 Tamrocks, like Geoprobe. We have the equipment and the hands-on learning. So many people I speak to, have had certain programs, but they're theoretical, which are great. We have theory, that's an important aspect of our program. But getting out and applying that learning, I think, is key. And we have the facilities, multi-base shop, 2 of them, to do it. And I think credibility in the industry, over 40 years we've been putting out students here at Fleming, and it's really neat to see. I'll go and get field questions from employers looking for employees. They'll call me every week. And all the other faculty as well. Our coordinator, Charlie Moretti, we'll get call after call saying, hey, do you have any people that are looking for work? And a lot of those people, I was a grad in 92. I was a grad in, 87. I was a grad in 2004. So it's cool. Those people that are now back hiring were students that I might have went to school with. Nice. Maybe one of our other instructors and professors went to school with, or I personally taught them. Now that makes me feel old when I see them coming back. But yeah, that's why you come to Fleming. I think legacy, applied learning, professionalism, and some pretty good people work here too. I'm just saying.
So let's touch on the equipment. How do you decide which equipment is best for the curriculum you have? Is it ease of use? Is it, kind of you look for cutting edge stuff, what local contractors are using? Or, I mean, are you really just using what you can find, what you can get companies to donate or lend to your program? Or, how does that work?
Well, it has changed over the years, most definitely. Originally, when our program started, they started with a really small budget, old mobile soils rig. That was back in 70, I think it started in 78. Mobile soils rig. Then eventually they got a cable tool, a old 10R Cyrus Series table drive. We use what we could get, what budgets would allow maybe, but 2 donations, especially for many years, we relied on donations. Now, recently, with the value seen in applied learning and the number of jobs that are available, our college has been excellent. We had a very large donation, probably going on 6 years ago, by Dwayne Parnham, very large in mining. CEO of many mining companies. He was a graduate of our Earth Resource program here at the college, or geology program. He saw the value in our program and donated $1 million. Some of that going to bursaries, some of it going to equipment. So in that influx of equipment, we got a number of upgraded equipment, our first brand new drill ever, which was our B37 mobile. And we got 2 Tamrock CJ 700s in that donation. Since then, we've had a donation of a very nice from Enbridge Gas, full horizontal directional drilling package, a Ditch Witch JT 2020. We got tracking system, reamers, international truck, float, everything. They just dropped it off, had 10 hours on it. And Enbridge saw the value again. We've had a great partnership with Enbridge, and Enbridge donated that to us. Those came at really pivotal points. I had an older Vermeer 1015 at that point I was drilling with and teaching students, and Vermeer in Ontario here had donated that thanks to them. But it was getting long in the tooth, and right at that moment when things are it's getting pretty old, Enbridge stepped in with this almost new drill. And we've been using that for probably 7 years now, 6 years. So it's starting to get a life. This year, we recently got donations from Subsite Electronics. We got their best tracking system with an underground utility locator, donated this past fall. And I'm working in the winds, and DCI is also stepping up. We've had DCI donations as well with their F5 and their Eclipse, and now they're going to donate a Falcon with us. So our students are going to see Subsite and DCI equipment, and we can't thank those companies enough. That's a big ticket item, and we have budgets, yes, but we rely on those donations. So the college, 3 years ago, we got that C6 XP2 because we started in 4th semester a foundation drilling class. Up to this point, we hadn't had foundation 3 or 4 years ago. We hired specifically a professor to deal with that, Charlie Moretti. He's from that industry, worked throughout the US and in Canada. And he came, and we needed him to have a drill. And we decided the most utilized equipment here we could use was one of those, a tieback or air rotary. So we got it with a Atlas Copco compressor. So we can do tiebacks. We can also use it for our air rotary class. So we run downhole hammer with it. It has been a godsend, that equipment. And two, it's different than what else we use. We have a Cantera CT250, an older water well drill, and I use that for mud rotary. But we wanted the students to see that type of articulation that they can do to run on a tieback wall. We actually built our own wall, and the students are drilling tiebacks. Nice. But we also use it for air rotary to drill essential vertical wells with a downhole hammer. So it's a very functional drill. Our B37 that we purchased with the Parnham donation is used in geotechnical drilling, as well as I use it in water well to drill PDC, which also could relate we're starting to include geothermal, very much getting into the geothermal aspect. So I use the B37 with a PDC bit in our mud reclaim system to drill here. Our geology here is about 18 to 20 feet of glacial till, so a little mixed bag, and then limestone shale from about 18 to 480. At 480, we get into the granite, the shield rock. So we'll do that with our students with the diamond drill. So our students with a diamond drill will get to see all of that, and usually by the end of the semester, they'll make it down to the contact of the granite. So yeah, the equipment it has been a combination of donation, which we will accept anything. So if anyone's listening out there and you want your drill represented and the newest generation of drillers on your equipment, talk to me. But also some great capital infusions from the college itself.
Yeah, that's great because, our industry, we have such a wide range of equipment being used over years and decades of technology. And it's great to hear that you have different locators so that guys and girls can see from what could be on a smaller rig to what will be on a big rig. And hearing about, foundation and geothermal and the expansion brings me right into my question about what like technology innovation is driving where your classes are going. Is there something you're excited about, or is there something that has been, you know, you just said geothermal. Yeah, geothermal is picking up speed again, but you know, sonic, those type of things. Is there something that's driving a class that you guys are developing or about to develop?
Um, the newest class was probably the foundation drilling. We got to understand here at the college, you know, we have a 2-year program. If something comes in, something has to come out. We're limited in hours. We can't just keep adding hours. So that has been managed. Like foundation came in, something else had to change, right? So one thing that has changed is our rig maintenance and our hydraulics classes have definitely changed. Hydraulics, we're going to, you know, study now all those electronic controls. As opposed to years ago, we wouldn't have done that, pilot operated or whatever. So now Canvas system, we're going to look at for in rig maintenance as well as in hydraulics. And that's the nice thing about owning a newer drill with Canvas, like the C6 XB2, again, into the computer work, diagnostics on the computer. So that has changed. The electronics has changed how we deliver rig maintenance. We used to look into, you know, setting timing on an ignition system on a gas engine. Well, that doesn't happen anymore today. We're not going to spend any time on that. We're going to spend time on small engines. That's for sure, because all of our pumps and saws and everything you're using, so we want them to be prepared for diagnostics on a small engine, as well as diesels. Okay, full takedown of a diesel, how it works, and then the systems that operate it. They're not going to be mechanic, but I want them to be a really good employee that can diagnose and maintain that engine. So maybe hear that sound and then start looking, okay, it's associated with this system, so they know what that system is. Is it the charging system, the cooling system? Yes, they're not plastic aging bottom bearings when they rebuild an engine, but they know how it operates and they know what to look for, they know what to maintain by going to that manual. The manuals are so important. We're beating it into students' heads that, hey, go to the books, go to the books, go to the books. Don't just take this for granted. Oh, I'm just going to use this oil or this oil. No. You could have a really expensive mistake. So let's go to the manufacturer. Go to the books or go to the internet, right? Yeah. Go to the internet. Let's solve these issues. So that's changed those programs. What am I excited about? Yes, geothermal. Now the principles we teach in all of this are totally relative to geothermal. Grouting, you know, now we talk about the thermally enhanced grouts, but we're going to start in the upcoming, as soon as COVID's over. COVID's a little tough to start new stuff, but when COVID's done, we're going to start looking at, we're going to put in a couple loops in class. Right now we drill the holes, you know, they're deep water wells, 500, 600 feet. And then, you know, now we're going to start looping them. Before we would just grout them off and say, okay, that hole's done. We seal it up so that it's a good grouting lab. But now we're going to put in some loops for geothermal. We have a thermal conductivity testing equipment now. We're going to get set up. Yeah, we got a full system there. We've got loop pusher, brand new loop pusher. We have a brand new GeoLoop grouting system. So yeah, we're going to get into geothermal. We were planning on making a CEC course with a certificate course on geothermal. We just didn't have the student interest yet, so we're going to start including that in our 2-year program. But you know, that's one thing I'm excited about. HDD is always changing. It's always got the new electronics and great partnerships with Subsite and DCI, and even Ditch Witch and Vermeer, the big players for sure. But there's others. Like I said, we are not brand specific. That's one thing I want to get across is that, you know, we get donations and we use what we can get. But, you know, I have a Ditch Witch drill right now that we're using every day for our students, but that's because it was donated. And so if someone came up with a yellow drill or a Vermeer drill, we would use that too, right? Or a Versa drill or a Jeffco or whatever. We're using whatever we can get. And but we do not specify. I want to talk about drilling, not about individual products. This grouter over this grouter. I'm talking about grouting. and how to use this grouter and things to look for. But as far as branding, that's great. I think the students, and I heard this from one of our reps saying to me, we really got to get one of our machines in there because I'm mighty sick of the students coming out and saying, well, I know how to run this machine because I did it in school. So I said, well, you know how to solve that problem, right? You drop one off, we'll use it. So yeah, but I make it clear with the companies that we love having those donations and we utilize them. So that's the same thing with the electronics. I want to show both so that my students are prepared that if they go and they are using this one, they're ready. They use this one, they're ready, right? So same with bits and all that. We're going to use what we can get and talk about drilling, not just this brand over that brand.
Yeah, for sure. So you had kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about how Fleming reacts and kind of rises to the industry trends out there? Like you mentioned specifically HDD, geothermal. I know with fiber internet that there's been a lot of demand for HDD drillers out there. Ontario has a no combustion building spec coming, don't they? Like doing away with so you know that can be responded to with geothermal, like geothermal heating and cooling. Like how does Fleming make decisions about responding, creating classes for trends in the industry?
Well, one thing we do is every year we have an advisory panel. Mm-hmm. So we have an advisory board that gets together, meets every year, and they're all from the industry. So we choose people from each, and we got a dewatering representative, we got exploration, we got construction, we got water well. The Ontario Groundwater Association sends a rep. So we have this meeting to discuss that exact topic. What do they want to see trending, and what can we work into our programs and where we can work it in? It may not be instantaneously, but we as faculty kind of drive this, and then our greater college higher up discusses budgets and how we can make it work. So we take our lead from the industry, from those industry reps that we have on this board, as well as us as faculty. We are constantly getting together and saying, hey, let's improve. This morning, we spent an hour and a half conversation on how to do synchronous learning and how can we utilize like these cameras to do a circle check on a drill. And right now we got a crew in the shop videotaping circle check on a GeoProbe 7822. So we are constantly wanting to improve. The industry guides these improvements. And then it's just us and being involved in things like this, or a National Groundwater Association, or I go to, I'm on a forum next week for our damage prevention for underground utilities, locators, and so forth. So, you know, just keeping an ear to the industry and then saying, how can we make it work? And can we get the equipment? Can we get the budget? And are we able? Do we need to take some professional development to get up on that, right?
So shifting back to teaching, you do live demonstrations with your students, or you're completing projects with your students. Tell us about a demonstration or a project that went just completely wrong.
You know what, Brock, I was thinking about that today, and I was like, you know what, sometimes those ones that go really wrong are some of the best learning. It is amazing how it goes really wrong. I mean, a lot of that is I'll just use one this past fall, just a couple, and we were doing a grouting exercise, and we were grouting off a 4-inch hole that we had drilled with the class, and we were running a one-step grout, and we prep the water, and here we go. And you know what it's like when you're grouting, right? Like we even had like an 1.5-inch tremie line, but it had a few
set
coils.
Up for success.
We were set up for success, but then things started to not pump, and then the students see me jump into action, and like they're all like, what is going on? He's really worked. And so as I'm smashing a bag of bentonite to get it going, actually, what were I doing at that time? But I said to the students, I said, this is at the critical moment. So as the noise is going, I got the grout pump running, and we are pumping this grout down and it stops up. So I get the students, we had pumped a number of bags down already. We did the calculation and I said, start pulling that tremie line out of the hole. Let's remove some of that, resistance. And so we thinned out another batch, got the line out. But anyway, they saw this action. All of a sudden, things are happening. Jim's yelling, what's going on? And so after it's all done, I get the grout line pumped out. So thankfully it didn't. And then we stop and decompress, shut everything off. And I said to the students, I said, what happened there? Well, you were awful worked up. And I said, well, I was worked up because if we don't act quickly, what do you think? And then we start diagnosing what could have happened. Okay, we're tearing apart the pump, and now we're digging all that grout out. And then you see that line, then we had to dig all that grout out of there. If it sets up, and because the pumping stopped for whatever, too much friction, right? Maybe it was water temperature. Now let's see what the problem is. So even in a disaster like that, grout everywhere, we now can decompress and say, what happened, one, and how do we prevent it from happening next? And so another one, a week later, the students were supposed to, blow all the lines out. We were doing some development of the B37. And we get back and we start drilling and the pressure rises and pressure relief valve goes. And I'm like, guys, what happened? And sure enough, the one hose that didn't drain and the hole on the feed energy chain of the B37 was frozen solid. And I said, okay, let's start taking it apart. We literally had to take it all off, bring it inside. An hour and a half later, we're back up and drilling. But this is winter in Canada. And look at one mistake. Luckily, nothing broke. The pump was drained. All that was drained. But that one little hose that you guys didn't drain leads to an hour and a half fiasco getting back up and running. So yes, goes poorly, but also is an opportunity for you to see what it went wrong. How do we prevent it? So I think if it went perfect all the time, I don't think it's the best learning opportunity. I think there needs to be some learning from failure, right? As long as it's not a safety related failure, it's something we can all learn from.
Yeah,
I was a little.
And that kind of troubleshooting is critical for folks once they get out into the real world.
It's critical for their bosses. It's critical for, your boss just lost an hour and a half, right? Your boss isn't happy. You got a couple crew on there. You got money, you got wages, you got travel time. And now we're having to, it could be you left the key on in the battery's dead. Now we're taking batteries out of the drill truck and we're trying. These add to a boss's stress. It adds to, costs on the job. And eventually, if this stuff adds up too much, you're not worth having around, right? So we get to the point, make your mistakes here, learn from those mistakes here. And I always use this phrase with my students. It's, a really smart person learns from other people's mistakes, right? A really smart person learns from their mistakes, but a genius learns from other people's mistakes, right? Be the person that watches everything and says, I don't want to make that same mistake. So learn from it, right? Learn what happened there. Why did that go wrong? And how do I prevent it? I want them to make their mistakes here so that, it ruined a class or it left an hour, less learning time. Yeah. But they made it here and they didn't cost the boss a lot of money. So learn here, learn those mistakes that maybe when they get in the end, they're still going to make mistakes, but they're not making as many. They're safe. They're ready to start making money for the boss, because that's the end of the game. You got to make money for the boss.
Wonderful. Well, with that, we'll wrap up today's episode. Thanks again, Jim. So I'm fascinated by this kind of professional professor role that you have, where just on the summers, like you're so passionate about it, you're out there, boots on the ground, getting muddy, and I can imagine that really, really earns the respect of some of these students that come into your program. They can see your dedication. What do you think, Brock?
I love it too. It shows the passion for the industry. It shows the relevance that Fleming wants to strive and continue to have. And one of the reasons that we often talk about, there's not many drilling programs in North America or around the world. There's, a couple week things that happen. There's 3 days or weekend associations, but to have semesters, to have second year students is amazing. To hear the story about plugging the trimmy and going into driller mode, though you're a professor, it's driller mode. And there's a couple reasons, because 1.5-inch trimmy is expensive. 400 foot of it is very expensive. And I know that from a Bayreuth guy testing grouts and telling the lab technician, this is a bad day. And they go, why? And I go, that's $2,400 worth of, high density polyethylene. So yeah. I love the fact that Jim has said, I'm still drilling HDD, I'm still drilling water wells. And I commend you, sir. You're a great industry promoter and teacher. I'm happy to know you as a colleague and friend.
Well, thank you, Brock. I over the last year and a half, I've seen Brock and Jeremy and Dave, you guys have been online presence. Awesome. You guys are on every forum you could do, adding comment, the professionalism, I say we're a big family and we got to work together. And Brock's out there promoting, I'm up here promoting, and we got Dave working at the union and promoting and drilling, and Jeremy here running a whole magazine. We work better when we're all working together. Yes. And we're on the same song sheet. I know we all are, about safety, about professionalism. I love some of your comment, Brock, about that professionalism. I had a great conversation down in Vegas with a number of great contractors that are just striving on that professionalism. I'm up here on the Canadian Groundwater Association talking with our contractors saying professionalism, training, safety. Let's all beat that same drum. And I'm so thankful to be working with and friends with people like you that are beating that same drum. Because we hear the opposite, right? We hear the lowest common denominator a lot. But the more of us that are saying the same thing about professionalism and safety, it's getting out. And I'm doing my part here at the college with those young and upcoming drillers saying, hey, you keep yourself safe and your people around you safe. Sometimes you have to send the safety trends and set the safety trends with how you act. So yeah, I remember my first day on the job, my helmet popped off and fell underneath a drill rig, and the boss says to me, good place to leave that stupid thing. And I put it back on my head, and I kept it on my head. And so I chose the safety path. And I want my students to do that, not just because it's a policy, but because they choose and to maintain their own personal safety and the safety of their employees that are under them or working with them. So yeah, beating the same drum is important, and I appreciate people like you.
Well, thanks again, Jim. Where can the audience find out more about you?
Well, you can email me at jim.smith@flemingcollege.ca. You can also go to Fleming College Drilling and Google it, and you'll see our program. It gives you a great breakdown. There's also a link to some YouTube videos, program videos, as well as the curriculum. What are we teaching? What does the semesters look like? What are the costs for international students? So if you were an American student coming up to Canada, international student, I think the tuition's $8,000. If you're an Ontario student, the tuition is $2,000 a semester. So very manageable, very reasonable for a diploma education. So yeah, you can look at that website. And I'm on LinkedIn as well, and on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, contact me with any questions, and I'll be happy to try my best to point you in the right direction anyway.
Fantastic. Well, you can find fresh episodes of our show on our website or on Apple Podcasts every other week. Just search Drilling Insight and be sure to hit that subscribe button. And you can visit thedriller.com for the latest industry news and views, and also follow us on the usual social media channels. So until next time, this is Drilling Insight.